Some of the greatest rock albums ever were born inside this house. But what if the inspiration didn't come from the artist, but from something not of this world? What if that phantom hiss on a master track wasn't just bad wiring, but a voice from beyond? This isn't just a recording studio, it's a legendary paranormal hotspot. From ghostly figures caught on camera to rock stars literally too terrified to spend the night, this is the story of the haunted mansion that has both inspired and terrified music legends for decades. Because it's Halloween, we're going to be unlocking the doors to reveal the secrets held within the walls of one of the most paranormally active recording studios in music history. Before we get started, be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. In the winding hills of Los Angeles, tucked away in the famous enclave of Laurel Canyon, there's a house that is so much more than just a house. For decades, this canyon has been ground zero for musical creativity, a bohemian paradise for artists like Joni Mitchell, all the way to the Doors. But one particular residence, a sprawling property shrouded in eucalyptus trees and urban legends, holds a unique and chilling place in rock and roll history. This is the mansion, the unconventional recording sanctuary of the visionary producer Rick Rubin. To understand his house, you have to first understand the man. Rubin is not your typical producer.
Know how to work a soundboard?
No. I have no technical ability, and I know nothing about music.
So what are you being paid for?
The confidence that I have in my taste and my ability to express what I feel has proven helpful for artists.
He's more of a guru, a minimalist, a sonic shaman who's guided artists from Johnny Cash to Jay-Z towards their most iconic work. He operates on an almost spiritual level, focusing on the soul of the music. So when he needed a studio as unconventional as his methods, a sterile, soundproof room was never going to work. He needed a space with a soul of its own. He found it in Laurel Canyon. The property's history is dense, it's layered with tragedy, and lore long before Rubin ever set foot inside. While records show that the sprawling mansion was built in 1918, the story is a bit more complicated. There was a house on the property then, and it came with its own dark legend. Local lore speaks of a grim event in 1918 where the son of a wealthy businessman was said to have thrown his lover over the balcony, and this was the point at which the house became haunted. But that original structure is gone. It was destroyed in a fire that swept through Laurel Canyon in 1959. And the house we know today was rebuilt on the very same ground, seemingly inheriting the land's haunted legacy. Before it was a musical mecca, this new building was a piece of Hollywood glamour, reportedly hosting stars like swashbuckling actor Errol Flynn. Its mystique was amplified by its connection to the legendary magician and escape artist Harry Houdini. A common misconception is that Houdini lived in the mansion itself, but the truth is he resided for a time in a guest cottage on the estate grounds while filming his movies in 1919. It was his widow, Bess, who strengthened the property's supernatural ties. Houdini's wife held ceremonies to communicate with her husband beyond the grave, forever weaving illusion and spiritualism into the very fabric of the place. Adding another layer, local legend claims a network of tunnels runs beneath the mansion, and its neighbors possibly used it for secret dealings during Prohibition. When Rick Rubin chose the property, he wasn't just getting a house, he was getting its history, its atmosphere, and as many would soon discover, its resident spirits. He transformed the sprawling residence into a creative sanctuary where artists could live and create, far from the confines of a traditional studio. As the first band moved in, and they would soon find out they weren't the only ones living there. The year is 1991. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are on the verge of global superstardom, but they need an album to launch them into the stratosphere. Rick Rubin, a firm believer that environment shapes creation, makes a radical suggestion. Instead of a typical studio, the band will move into the mansion for a month to record what would become Blood Sugar Sex Magik. It was a decision that would not only define their career, but also cement the house's paranormal reputation. From the moment they moved in, the band felt that they weren't alone. Only one member refused to stay overnight, and that was drummer Chad Smith. Convinced the house was haunted, he chose to ride his motorcycle home each night. The rest of the band, however, fully embraced the strange energy, setting up their lives and gear in various rooms of this grand Spanish-style relic. The experiences started small, unexplained noises, disembodied voices in the halls, and the constant feeling of just being watched. Doors that were firmly shut would be found wide open, but far from being terrifying, the band found the energy to be mostly positive. positive. Guitarist John Frusciante in particular felt a real connection to whatever was there, describing the spirits as very friendly. Frusciante even claimed to have a bizarrely intimate encounter, telling an interviewer he heard a ghostly woman having sex in his room, and that the house has a very spiritually sexual vibe. Kiedis, who recorded his vocals in one of the huge upstairs bedrooms, felt the presence added a unique intimacy to the sessions. The band became so convinced that these benevolent spirits were on their side, they believed the ghosts were actively helping them create. For the Chili Peppers, the ghosts of the mansion weren't a source of terror, they were their unseen bandmates. If Red Hot Chili Peppers' experience was one of friendly collaboration, Slipknot's arrival over a decade later brought a much darker chapter. In 2003, the 9-member mass metal band from Iowa came to the mansion to record their third record, aptly titled Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. The band was already in a fragile state, battling internal conflicts and substance abuse. Rick Rubin hoped the house's creative energy would help. Instead, the band's volatile energy seemed to awaken something far more menacing. Slipknot did not find friendly spirits. They found something oppressive and deeply unnerving. Frontman Corey Taylor, a self-professed paranormal enthusiast, documented his chilling experiences in his book, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Heaven. One of the most terrifying moments happened in his bathroom. He looked up from the shower to see a full-bodied apparition of a man in a tuxedo walk across the room before vanishing. It wasn't just a feeling or a noise, it was a clear visual manifestation that left him completely shaken. And that activity wasn't just isolated to Taylor. Drummer Joey Jordison reported that every single morning his bedroom door would swing open on its own, no matter how securely he had locked or barricaded it the night before. Bassist Paul Gray felt such a powerful sense of dread in the basement that he was physically unable to enter the space, as an invisible force was holding him back. The house seemed to mess with them in other ways. Electronics would malfunction for no reason. Band members felt unseen hands brush against them in empty hallways, and saw figures walk through rooms and into walls where there were no doors. The psychological toll was immense. Amidst their own personal demons, the constant oppressive atmosphere of the house began to seep into their work. Corey Taylor later said, "You can really feel it on the album. There were ghosts in the machine, in the equipment. Things would freeze, things would loop for no reason at all." For Slipknot, the mansion wasn't a creative partner, it was an antagonist. Just a year after Slipknot's harrowing stay, the mansion hosted another one of rock's most unique bands, System of a Down. In 2004, they moved in to record 2 interconnected albums, Mesmerize and Hypnotize, back to back. Like the artists before them, the band was well aware of the house's reputation. Guitarist Darren Malakian even reported his own strange but consistent anomaly. Every day around 4 p.m., his guitar amp would act up for no reason, something he chalked up to the house's weird energy. But the most compelling and terrifying story from their time there didn't happen to a band member. It happened to a visitor who arrived early one morning and came face to face with the house's most famous resident. Heidi Robinson Fitzgerald, Rick Rubin's publicist, showed up at the silent, empty house to get a head start on her work. She sat down in the grand dining room, which looked out towards the main foyer, and its dramatic winding staircase. As she started to work, she got the distinct feeling she was being watched. The feeling grew so intense, she felt like someone was standing directly behind her. She spun around. There was nothing there. The entryway was empty. Confused, she turned back to her papers, and that's when she saw it. An apparition materialized in front of her. It was the ghost of a woman, dressed completely in white, gracefully descending the grand staircase. Heidi was frozen. The most surreal detail she recalled was that the woman's clothing was flowing as if it caught a breeze, even though every window in the house was shut, and the air was perfectly still. The woman in white reached the bottom of the staircase, paused for a moment, and then as calmly as she appeared, turned around and walked right back up, vanishing into the upper floors. The entire encounter lasted just a few seconds, but left Heidi describing the experience not as evil, but simply as freaky. What makes this account so powerful is its source. This wasn't a rock star in the middle of a grueling recording session. This was a publicist who walked into the house on a normal workday and had an undeniable paranormal experience in broad daylight. Her story of the lady in white became one of the most credible pieces of lore from the mansion, a chilling first-hand account of a spirit who seemed to be forever walking its halls. The stories from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Slipknot, and System of a Down are the pillars of the mansion's haunted legacy, but they're far from the only ones. Nearly every artist who spends significant time within its walls has left with a story to tell. Artists like Audioslave, Marilyn Manson, Linkin Park, and even Maroon 5 have all recorded there, and many have reported similar strange encounters. Orbs of lights and photos, doors opening on their own, and crucial recording equipment malfunctioning at key moments. James Murphy of LCD Sound System added to the mythology while recording there, recounting some of the darker lore he'd heard. He spoke about a particularly grim, though unconfirmed story about Genesis P. Orridge of the industrial band Throbbing Gristle supposedly having a serious fall from a balcony. While Genesis P. Orridge did suffer serious injuries in an incident at a different Los Angeles house, the balcony story remains part of the mansion's murky blended history, a perfect example of how fact and legend intertwine within its walls. The mystique is only deepened by the physical secrets of the property. Those rumored underground tunnels said to have been used during Prohibition add a tangible layer of mystery to the estate. The Houdini connection, too, continues to fuel this supernatural narrative. Even the architecture contributes to the unsettling vibe. The sprawling estate is sometimes described as a 4-bedroom home, and other times as a 10-bedroom palace, hinting at a disorienting layout of winding halls and forgotten corners that could easily make one feel watched or lost. What is certain is that the mansion became a lightning rod for paranormal tales. It's a place where the line between history and hearsay blurs, where every creak of the floorboards is filled with meaning. The sheer volume of accounts from a diverse range of credible artists and industry professionals makes it impossible to dismiss the claims as just rockstar excess. The echoes of the past are loud in this house, and they seem to get louder with every visitor who dares to listen. From the friendly spirits that inspired the Red Hot Chili Peppers to the oppressive presences that tormented Slipknot, the mansion is more than a house, it's a living entity, saturated with over a century of history, tragedy, and creative energy. For decades, it served as Rick Rubin's sonic laboratory, a place where the conventional rules of recording were just thrown out in favor of atmosphere and raw inspiration. But as countless musicians have attested, that atmosphere comes with company. That brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories.